Hey, what's going on, guys? So I wanted to make this video today talking about a subject that frequently I get asked about in Instagram DMs from clients and whatever. Is how do we tell if a program is good and like what makes a program good and what makes a program bad? I want to preface this first by saying that there's no such thing as a perfect program. If there was a perfect program, everybody would run it. This is why understanding these principles and why you need to look at each person individually, where they are, with their training age and lifestyle and whatever, with basically how you decide like if a program is good or not, depending on that person's situation. Because, for example, if somebody says, "Is this program good for me?" Well, I can't really tell 100%, like, just based off of, like, just, okay, cool, like, I don't know your individual circumstance, and so, like, a lot of it has to do with the individual, but there's some principles that we can look for. Whenever I am analyzing a program or what I'm saying to somebody, or if you have a question about is something good or not, or and is it actually legitimate, is to ask yourself, how does this line up with these core principles that I know? So let's just dive into it. So I have 6 themes right here that I think you can look for to basically tell if a program is good or not for you. So the first thing to look for is the principle of specificity. So what the principle of specificity dictates is that your program should be specific to whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So if you want to get stronger, you should probably be training within a 4 to 6 rep range, primarily lifting on those movements that you do want to get stronger at. Strength is a neurological skill, and basically powerlifters try to become as efficient as possible with specific movement patterns. And that's where specificity comes in terms of strength. Now, let's say if you're a bodybuilder, um, a really good thing to look for with the specificity is the program mainly does it have tens? Does it have like a higher rep ranges overall? Training should be specific to your goal at hand. If it's kind of going all over the place, like for example with basically every single powerbuilding program I've seen, where you're training, let's say even like earlier on in the week, you're doing fives, and then later on you're doing tens. Like that's all well and good, but it's not very specific. You're not really going to have that directed adaptation that we want. Now you can still make progress, but it's probably not like the best program. And you're going to run into issues, and I'll kind of dive into it more if we get down this curve. But anyways, the second thing we want to look for is overload. Is your program written in a way where you can overload from week to week? Things to look for. Where is the overall weekly volume? Is it something that you can recover from and adapt to? Um, Over time, does the training get harder? We are adaptive beings physiologically, and so in order for stimuluses to, in order for adaptations to take place, we need to have a stimulus that is greater than before. That's what the principle of overload dictates. So, an example of how I like to do this with my programs for a lot of clients is I will start out at a lower RPE earlier on in the mesocycle cycle, and then accumulate volume on via increases in intensity. So let's say week 1 RPE 7, week 2 RPE 8, week 3 RPE 9, week 4 RPE 10, and then you deload and reduce that fatigue that you built up. That's just one way to facilitate overload. Um, but a print like you need to be in order for a program to be effective, you need to be getting better. And when you're looking at that, look at the volume, look at is intensity changing week to week. Am I able to actually add a weight to the barbell, or a set or a rep or two? Those are really important questions to ask. The third thing I would recommend looking for is, does this incorporate fatigue management? Fatigue management, so that we need to understand that as we train, we kind of are going to induce a Basically, how it looks like is I'll draw it out right here. I kind of need to do this for the next principle, anyways. But how training works is when you train, you're only accumulating fatigue. You are breaking down that muscle tissue. You are fatiguing yourself neurally, and that's necessary for your body to go, oh crap, I'm dying. I'm going to have to get better. So then this is easier the next time that this guy does it. So basically, what this looks like, and I'll talk about what this curve is called when I go on to the next principle. But basically, when you're training, this is kind of like, let's call this base axis a just the baseline level of fitness that we do have. Fitness in this context would be defined as like your readiness to lift a weight. As we are going on and on in training, and we kind of notice this, as sessions go on, we get fatigued. We can't lift as much. There's a reason why if you're going to go for a max or a top set, you do that first, because the fatigue goes even more and more down, and we have to, and that means that we have to have that recovery curve go up. You're only going, like, you can do as much in the gym as you want possible, and kill yourself, but you need to manage that fatigue. Really good ways to manage fatigue are going to simply be rest days, relaxation after your training sessions, managing stress, taking deloads when you need them. As a general rule of thumb, for most people, you should deload once every 4 to 7 weeks, depending on your fiber type, proximity to career peak, how strong you are, stuff like that. But generally, if you look for those things in a program, just have rest days. Is volume not too high? So I can actually recover from, et cetera, et cetera. And then SRA, which basically stands for stimulus, recovery, and adaptation, and that's essentially what this curve is. So this is the stimulus, okay? So we're going down or inducing fatigue as we lift weights. When we stop lifting weights and we are resting, we are sleeping, we are basically doing anything that does not have to do with breaking down tissue and inducing neural fatigue, we are going to be recovering. Now, we don't only want to just recover from training, because if, by definition, if you're just recovering, we're not any better. If all you can do is recover from your training, you're not going to come back stronger. The goal should be to adapt week to week. Up until you're overreaching week when you deload, which should be planned. So you need things that contribute to SRA. Make sure that your volume is in a good place. Anywhere from 10 to 20 sets for most muscle groups is going to be good. And how you distribute that volume depends on specificity. How you can overload on each of those movements. How fatiguing are those movements? So that's basically SRA. We want to induce the stimulus from our training. We want to be able to recover from our training, and we want to adapt from our training. Now, number 5, variation. So variation is basically defined as, let's say, for one mesocycle, you're doing 5s, and then the next mesocycle you're doing 4s. Predominantly for your sets, or let's say you're doing 6 to 10 reps in one mesocycle, and then you're doing 8 to 12. Or you're changing up exercises. What that's going to do is that's going to it kind of adds some benefits, first off, with being able to adapt, because novelty has been shown in a few case studies and meta-analyses, I believe, to be is a novel enough stimulus to actually induce an adaptation to occur. So variation is really good for ensuring that you make more progress over time. The more and more that we do things, the more and more body becomes better at becoming resistant to making an adaptation. So for example, let's say for your chest, let's say you choose 3 exercises, one mesocycle. Let's say the first mesocycle you do bench, dumbbell flies, incline dumbbell bench press. Those are your 3 exercises. Let's say for the next one, you do curl strip bench press, cable flies, machine incline bench press. So let's say for the third one, you do pause bench press, you do curl strip incline bench press, and then you do flat dumbbell bench flies. What that's going to do is be able to allow for adaptations to continue to happen. It also can keep training more exciting, and you can be more motivated to come into the gym. So there's definitely a psychological factor to it, because if you actually like your training and you're not bored, you're probably going to be more excited to come into the gym. In addition, inducing different exercises is going to reduce risk of injury by basically changing the lines of compression on your connective tissues, your joints, and your tendons. So variation and fatigue management are both very, very good ways of making sure that you stay as injury free, or you're managing that in a way that is effective and reducing the cumulative risk of injury. And then the last principle is phase potentiation. So what that means is, so that we have the different phases in the training. So mainly hypertrophy, which is going to be higher volumes, anywhere within, I would say, mostly 6 to 15 reps. You can go up as high as 20. And then strength mostly being within the 4 to 6 rep range, peaking being 1 to 3 reps. You want to have these phases in different time frames because of this principle of specificity, overload, fatigue management, SRA variation, etc. Because if you're doing power building, for example, this is one of the biggest flaws with it. You don't have anywhere to go after you do power building because you're not allowing yourself to potentiate, because our bodies will adapt most effectively to whatever we do most specifically. And if you want to maximize progress, and if you want to, run into less issues with having, injuries, with having, with not making the same progress, etc., you need to separate these. It's best long term. You'll actually see the adaptations that you want, and you don't really run into plateaus. And also, I find that this is, for most clients that migrate from doing everything all at once, doing, specifically like mesocycles for a specific goal. Again, they always see better progress, and they're always going to run into less issues over time with training becoming redundant and stale, and whatnot. So that's basically everything I kind of have to say about that. I hope that made some decent sense. Every single program, should incorporate one of these principles in one way or another, in order for it to be effective long term and to probably be the best for your individual circumstance, as long as it is made for you. You're honest about your individual differences and whatever. So yeah. Hope this video was helpful. If you guys liked it, make sure to like, share with your dog or your mom or your friends or whatever. Black Friday sales going on, so link in bio for coaching and programs. Follow me on Instagram. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.